My name is Benjamin Stienon. I am product owner at Odoo, in charge of accounting and localization. And today, I must confess, I'm very happy and proud to be here with you. There are many of you in here, so thank you for coming. I would like to introduce you with the new analytic accounting feature, which we revamped completely in V16, based on your feedbacks, our understanding, our knowledge, and it's time for me to introduce you to this new analytic widget you can see on invoices. This is a specific field you won't see anywhere else in Odoo. It's really meant to answer a need which was sufficiently specific to have its own widget. And in this widget, you will be allowed to manipulate analytic items any way you want, as flexible as can be. Here in this widget, there are already plenty of information. So in the field, you can see that on this invoice, which is a draft customer invoice, you can see that there are tags like this with two colors, in orange and in red, if my eyes are okay. And you have just the name of the account, the analytic account, you can see, plus the breakdown, the proportion of this amount. Here we have an amount of 750, and this amount will be broken down on a specific analytic account for 70%, on a distinct analytic account for 30%. What we can see here is that on some tags, we see a percentage. On other tags, we don't see any. When you won't see any percentage, it's because implicitly, it means it's distributed up to 100%. So the distribution is already complete. But when there is a breakdown, it's user-friendly to see it each time. So you see the tags remind you what you did as a distribution. Below the widget itself that opens, you see that we talk about departments and projects. What are these? These are analytic plans. So the plans, they are representing a dimension on which you want to analyze your accounting figures, your movements. So you might have distinct considerations to tackle or to face, like how do I perform in terms of how do my departments perform, how do my projects perform. These are the ones we decided to highlight. But that's not all. As you can see, the first plan has a bullet, a green bullet in this case. The other plan does not have any bullet. When you have a color bullet, it has a meaning. It means that this plan is mandatory. So when you post an entry, we have to distribute fully the amount of 750. This invoice line's amount, we have to distribute it fully, 100%, not 99, not neither less nor more. It has to be done. But we also know that there are plenty of flows in Odoo which could be blocked because of this mandatory concern. So don't worry about that. We developed the feature in such a way that the mandatory plans are only mandatory for the user's perspective. It means if it's not appearing on a screen with which you can interact, then these applicability rules defined on the plans, they won't impact the flows anyhow. Below, there is no bullet, so this plan is optional. You have a plan, you can break down, you can ventilate if you want, but if you don't want to do it, if you want to ventilate less or more, no matter what you do, it's optional, you do whatever you want. About the analytic plans, this is how it goes. Before we had analytic groups, they have been removed and replaced by the analytic plans. And these plans are not just there to group, they have like some skills. They can provide some tools. And so basically we see everything in here. You have first the fields that are self-explaining. So a plan can have a parent plan. So you can have a hierarchy of plans. And you have also the sub-plans, the smart button you can see in the upper right corner. You see from the plan you can also access the sub-plans attached to this plan. So you can build a hierarchy analytically between your plans up to the account. But the accounts themselves don't have a hierarchy together. The hierarchy is on the plan level. And of course, you can navigate. So suppose I would have a sub-plan in here in my departments. Pressing the button pointing to the 11 analytic accounts will lead me not only to the accounts linked to this department plan, but also to its sub-plans. So it's quite clever. This plan is optional, so there won't be any bullet, there won't be any control upon posting the invoice, there won't be anything like that. And the plan has a color, so that the tags, you can retrieve the tags and you can understand easier which plan you are interacting with on your invoice thanks to the color code. Of course, sometimes maybe you would like, for specific reasons, like for example when I was in the film production industry, we wanted to check each time the specific accounts for third party, like suppliers, it may have been lawyers, directors of photography, the one who invoiced us, not our employees, but the one who sent us invoices. We had to specifically follow analytically the costs of those people. Well, okay, we can say that, and we can, in the one-to-many here, in the lines below, we can say, okay, this plan is optional, but in some cases, like the ones I highlight here, for example, the plan will have a different behavior. For some specific cases, it will be mandatory, so a control, a color bullet, or unavailable. What does that mean? Unavailable. Suppose you have plenty of plans. At some point, the widget will display them all, and it can become a mess. So just selecting a plan like unavailable, it will just make it unavailable in the widget. So you won't have your widget impacted for the time this plan is considered unavailable. It's still there, but unavailable. And so basically, this is how it goes. Those two plans are mandatory, and I can distribute myself, my invoice. No need to navigate and change screen. Everything is feasible in the widget. Now, suppose you have done a distribution, and you consider that distribution is probably about to repeat itself many, many times, and you feel the value of saving time and saving this distribution model, because it will repeat again and again. You can, from the widget, no need to go elsewhere, you can, from the widget itself, save the analytic distribution that you chose so that it will be reused later on. Last but not least, I guess this is the cherry on the cake, the first cherry on the cake. There might be multiple. In analytic accounting, globally you have no real reasons to lock your entries at any moment. You may have a timeline which differs completely from the accountant's concern. So from my own experience, the accountants, they focus on VAT, tax settlements and so on, tax reporting, respecting deadlines and so on. But the deadlines of project managers who want to have an understanding of their project is not at all in line with the deadlines of the accountants. So basically, what does this screen do? In list view of the journal items, here you are clearly on the items on the financial account, so bookkeeping. You can mass edit what you did. So consider you made a mistake. Consider you forgot to distribute analytically on one or another account. Well, you can still do it later on, or someone else can do it, because maybe it's not the same person who will do the analytic distribution than the accountant. And so these two flows are completely separate. The accountant can respect his own deadlines, no need to interact unnecessarily with the project manager. Of course, they can grab a beer if they want, but they are not forced to work together and adapt their timeline. And the project manager can, of course, already modify his analytic, their work on the same page, but at their own rhythm. So we have seen the new features, basically, of analytic accounting. You can define applicability rules on the analytic plans. You can distribute smoothly thanks to the new widget that I invite you to use when you get back home tonight. You can save from the widget your analytic distribution models so that you can reuse them later. And first cherry on the cake, you can mass edit the analytic information in the list view of journal items. In brief, we made these developments in V16 to make analytic accounting more flexible, efficient, and intuitive. No need for those who, among you who knew analytic in V15 or former versions. There were two fields and it was sometimes perceived as complex. Here it has been harmonized and the intuitivity of the tool was our main concern. So the new analytic accounting is simply tailored to your needs. Let's go for a quick demo. I can just show you how it works. We have imagined with my colleague, which is doing the same presentation in French, 2 desks from me, a use case where the user's company would be in the music industry, and so he represents some artists and sells music, pop music, rap music, etc. for different artists. Famous one, Eminem, Coldplay, Pharrell Williams. Those are the ones we we decided to select. And suppose he wants to invoice, well, famous brand, Barnes and Noble, and he wants to invoice, I don't know, let's say, CD of Pharrell Williams up, and he wants to invoice it 100 times, quantity is 100. Here you can see my widget, plenty of dimension, plenty of plans. You are not forced to use as many plans, but we wanted to show you that the widget can become bigger and bigger according to the number of plans. And you can say, okay, this Pharrell Williams, I would rather consider it's pop music. The artist, I can select and ventilate, attribute, assign the proper amount to the proper person, of course. The CD of Pharrell Williams should not impact Eminem anyhow. The department, it's distribution, and what is my activity? It's physical music. In few clicks, I've done it, and I have ventilated, broken down my analytic distribution. I can save my model. And here, as you can see, you have a pop-up that just allows you to say, okay, this plan, it's okay, it's a good thing, but when does it apply? So the distribution is reminded below, and in the upper part of the first section of the pop-up, you can say, okay, this is what happens when I send to Barnes and Noble, or probably more clever, this is what happens when I sell something like CD of Pharrell Williams. It's always the same music, it's always the same department, it's always the same activity, it's always the same artist. So this one will be valid. What happens now if I have completed multiple criteria for this distribution to apply? Suppose I have just selected this. Each time, no matter who each time I sell a CD of Pharrell Williams, distribution will apply. But maybe this distribution is valid for Barnes and Noble, but would not be valid for Fnac or Walmart or whoever it might be. There might be differences, and I can select and say, okay, there are multiple criteria. If I fill in multiple criteria, those conditions have to apply together. It's an and. It must be both and Barnes and Noble who is concerned as a customer and this specific product, the CD of Pharrell Williams. But for the present case, let's say it's independent from Barnes and Noble. Now, what happens if I did not respect the breakdown on the mandatory plan? The color code, the color bullet becomes orange. But I can do whatever I want. If I want to navigate to another line or whatever, I can keep preparing my invoice. I am not bored at all. But that's not what I want to do. It's just a mistake. So upon posting, I will have an error message telling me that the distribution is not complete. One or more lines require 100% analytic distribution. I can rely on Odoo. The validation error is there to help me because I was a little bit distracted. I don't know how to say. Now I correct my mistake and I can confirm. Of course, you have the same behavior on the vendor bills. You have the same behavior on the journal entries. You can also, on any journal entry, call the widget. It's there. And your distribution models, your accounts, your plans can be considered directly through specific menu items. So now, let's assume I made a mistake in my distribution, and I want to correct myself. Thanks to the mass edit feature, I can go and select some of those entries. Let's say all the ones that concern, oh, but maybe not all of these. Maybe I should filter a little, but up. What happens if basically I made a mistake here? I can mass edit those two. I can say, oh, it was not only distribution, but for some specific reason, it was also administration and finance. It's already auto-computed. Odoo understands that it's likely you would like to have a 100% breakdown, so it's pre-populated. And you have this correction which can be done in mass on posted entries. Because basically, it doesn't matter that much if I change the analytic perception I have of something, even though it's already closed accounting-wise. For those of you who were very, very attentive, I have talked about two cherries on the cake. Here is the second one. The second one is on the reports. On the reports, you can see your P&L according either to the accounts or to the plans or both. So let's make a quick example. I'm only interested in what Pharrell Williams is concerned. I retrieve my amounts and I can see that among the 9,100 of net profit I did on a specific period, 3,000 concern this artist, this specific artist. And when I clicked on the amount, I have the breakdown of all the analytic items. So in the title it's written, you can see that we are questioning items, analytic items. But it's a P&L. P&L is general accounting. So you can, of course, still audit your journal items. The last column is accounting. So the journal items in your accounting package. But if you call the analytic filters, we won't retrieve the journal items. We will retrieve the analytic items. So for those of you can perceive, it's the second cherry on the cake. And just because you were very, very attentive, there is a third cherry on the cake. The third one is that you can have any analytic item you want without any journal item linked to it. So if you want, for any reason, do simulations, sorry, I misclicked. If you want, for any reason, post an analytic item which is not correlated, not linked to your accounting because you don't want to keep track of it. It's just something for you, for your internal needs, for a talk you will have tomorrow with the board of managers, you want to present them a budget or whatever. You can create analytic items out of the blue. Let's call it like that. And you have an amount here. I will make a ridiculously big amount just to have it appear. And you can say, this will impact, it's more often the P&L. So I take a P&L account, an income account, and this will impact this account. What happens in my P&L? Oh, of course, if I forget the analytic account, I give a description, but it won't work. What happens in my P&L? I don't remember which account I have put. Was it concerts or something like that? It was concerts, reporting, P&L, analytic, concerts. Okay. I should have it. I didn't. I don't know why, but I will investigate. My third cherry on the cake will land, but I must have misclicked somewhere because of the pressure. So, not kidding. What I wanted to say is you can have representation of analytic which are not linked to your accounting. Of course, it's up to you. If you don't want it, don't use it. But it's an additional feature added because there is no reason why you would be forced to keep track in your accounting package of entries which were just meant to be posted for internal reasons. I skip you plenty of slides that I prepared because we went through the demo and it's time for me to thank you. I don't know if we have time enough for the Q&A session.
Time for questions, actually. But if you have any questions now, or if you take a few minutes to think of some questions, don't hesitate to meet him outside to ask those and have them answered.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.